Today I'm going to be demonstrating the difference between universals and Gracie curettes. These are all instruments that go subgingival, which means underneath the gums, and they are all used with a modified pen grasp. You also want to make sure that these instruments are never used on newly erupted teeth, demineralized areas like decay, and with patients that have active infection. You also want to make sure while working in the mouth that you always start with the most posterior tooth and working your way forward. For the universal, you always want to make sure that the face of the blade is always at a 90-degree angle to the terminal shank. Also for a universal, both sides are activated. So as you can see here, you can go from both sides. Sorry for the whisker. Both sides can be used for a universal. Also for the universal, it can be used on posterior and anterior teeth. Unlike a Gracie, they are area specific. So, first one we want to start off with is the Gracie 1-2. So the Gracie 1-2 is only used for anterior teeth. This is the Gracie 11-12, and that is only used buccal and on mesial surfaces. And then the Gracie 13-14 is only used on distal surfaces. With the Gracies, you always want to make sure that the blade is 70 degrees to the terminal shank, and only one side of the blade is activated. The lowest side of the blade is always going to be against the tooth. So just to show you really quick with the Gracie 1-2, there are two sides obviously, but if you look at this side, it's shiny, and this side's a little bit more dull. If you kind of put it on an angle like this, you can see that it is on a slant, so you want to make sure that that lowest side, which is this side, is the side that's going to be on the tooth. So for all of these instruments, there are always 3 steps before you go sub G, which is into the gums. You always want to make sure that before going in, that you are always going closed, insert, and then open to activate the instruments. So we are going to show you that. So to find the correct working end for the universal, you always want to look for the V to the D. You'll know that you have the wrong working end if I flip it over like this. You don't want it to be hugging the tooth. That's incorrect. So you always want to make sure that when you insert it into the coal space, it's V to the D. For the universal, you want to make sure that the closed face of the blade is towards the enamel at a 0 to 40 degree angle. Insert just the tip of the toe third to the sulcus, and then you're going to open at a 60 to 80 degree angle. So just to show you that really quick, you want to make sure you close, so towards the face of the blade, insert, and once you're in, that's when you're going to open and move that instrument. Always make sure that you have that modified pen grasp, so you want to make sure you're holding it like this, and you want to fulcrum either on the tooth or the tooth ahead of it. So again, I'll show you that close, insert, open. You want to close 0 to 40 degrees, close, insert, and then open, standing high up on that fulcrum, making sure that it is 60 to 80 degrees. And you want to make sure that you're not doing any digital movements while you are working. So like I said, the universal can be used on any tooth, posterior and anterior, and lingually and buccally. So the same thing goes for the Gracies. You want to find the correct working end, so I also look for that V to the D. If it's incorrect, when you go to insert, it just doesn't feel right, it doesn't fit. So you always want to make sure that you look for that V to the D. For the Gracies, you are going to open at a 70 degree angle so that the terminal shank is parallel to the long axis of the tooth. So here, this is the Gracy 1314, making sure that you have that modified pen grasp. You are going to do the same thing, making sure to close, insert, and then open. So the Gracy 1314, you're going to start at the distal line angle and work your way distal. For the Gracy 1112, I'll show you that really quick. Same thing with that Gracy 1112, always look for that V to the D, and this one, you start at that distal line angle and work your way buckle until you are completely mesial into the cowl space. Like I said, the Gracy 1112 is only for the buckle and mesial, and the 1314 is for that distal line angle distal. So while you're working, you always want to make sure that it's that shortest or lowest side before you go in. So that's going to be against the tooth. With that modifying pen grasp, you are going to close, modified pen grasp, close, insert, open, and rock forward. Once you reach that spot where it starts to curve, you want to make sure that you are turning your instrument into that cowl space. The Gracy 1-2 is only used for anterior teeth, and same as the Gracy 1314 and 1112, you want to look for the lowest end of the blade, and that will be the working end. So depending on if you are working on your towards or away surfaces, you want to make sure that you have that lowest angle working towards it. And same thing, if you're switching to the lingual, you want to make sure that you have that lowest area and you want to close, insert, open. So if I'm working on my away surfaces, I want to make sure that it's like that, close, insert, open, and working. So you're going to start at the middle of the tooth and either working on your towards or away surfaces. For the universal and anterior teeth, the correct working end, you always want to think of that bump to the tooth while working. So depending on if you're working on towards or away, you want to make sure wherever you are working that it's bump to the tooth. So here, if I'm going this way, you can see that that's incorrect. So what I would want to do is flip my instrument, making sure that the bump is to the tooth, just like that.